What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO, Bob Arum, states that, gives the update on his fighter, undefeated, 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight, undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Terence Bud Crawford. And Bob Arum had an interesting take regarding the future of Terence Crawford. He was asked on Barbershop Conversations about a possible showdown with his WBO mandatory challenger in two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter. And Bob Arum stated that he's just not willing to pay for a showdown with Shawn Porter. Bob Arum clarifies and says 8-division world champion, legendary, iconic superstar boxer, who is currently the WBA welterweight world champion, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, has all but informed them that he will be moving on from the possibility of facing Terence Crawford, and he will be looking to either face Conor McGregor in his next bout. Bob Arum says he don't believe Manny Pacquiao will face undefeated, unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Errol Spence Jr., but he says that Manny Pacquiao is going in a different direction and informed them he's going in a different direction. So where does this leave Terence Bud Crawford? Because you see, Terence Bud Crawford now, according to Bob Arum, his number one priority for Terence Crawford was to face Manny Pacquiao. But that ship has sailed, according to Bob Arum. Then his other option was to face Errol Spence Jr. But he stated that, there's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of roadblocks that they have to hash out. So he says that, in other words, they're going to wait Al Haymon out, promoter, advisor, and founder of the PBC, Premier Boxing Champions. He says they'll just wait Al Haymon out and let him continue to lose money putting Errol Spence on pay-per-view and meaningless fights that aren't bringing in any revenue. He alluded to the Danny Garcia fight, two-time unified world champion, superstar boxer, 2-division world champion, Danny Garcia. He says that fight lost a lot of money. He stated that Al Haymon is putting on meaningless pay-per-view events and he's not getting a return on his investment. So he says until they come to an agreement and make this a 50-50 fight with Terence Crawford, then they'll continue to freeze out Errol Spence and Al Haymon. So this lets you know Bob Arum has essentially one-track mind when it comes to this Errol Spence-Terence Crawford fight. 50-50 or nothing, as Terence Crawford stated. We know that essentially, regardless of what Bob Arum is stating, that Danny Garcia is a high-quality, high-level opponent that Errol Spence just made look pedestrian, right? We know that Shawn Porter is a Hall of Famer, 2-time welterweight world champion, put on a beautiful performance against Errol Spence, but he came up short, and Errol Spence just risen to the occasion. So did 4-division world champion, superstar boxer Mikey Garcia. He got outclassed by Errol Spence, but Mikey Garcia is a surefire Hall of Famer. It's the Floyd Mayweather effect. It doesn't matter who you put in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather's skill set is going to outlast his opponents. Meaning that the cream for Floyd Mayweather's ceiling is going to rise higher than his opponents. So he's always going to make his opponents look unworthy. And now you could choose to look at it two different ways. You could look at it as Floyd Mayweather is just that great, or you could look at it from the standpoint and say he's not fighting great opponents. That's up to you. But the guys that Floyd Mayweather is facing are Hall of Famers and ex-world champions. He just made them look pedestrian, a la Errol Spence. Errol Spence is fighting high-quality, high-level opponents. He's just making them look pedestrian. Keith Thurman, he was cruising in the first half of the fight with Danny Garcia, but in the second half of the fight, Danny Garcia closed the gap and made it interesting. Shawn Porter as well. Those are the other 2 losses he has on his resume. Danny Garcia essentially fought better competition. He has a better resume than Terence Crawford from top to bottom. He's a surefire Hall of Famer, Danny Garcia. So is Shawn Porter, and so is Mikey Garcia. If Sylvester Stallone, Rocky character, in a theatric movie could be a Hall of Famer, actual two-time world champions, multiple-time world champions are going to get in the Hall of Fame. With that said, Arturo Gatti is in the Hall of Fame. Arturo Gatti is in the Hall of Fame because of his action-packed fights, not because he was a great fighter. So you mean to tell me Arturo Gatti is a better fighter than Danny Garcia, a better fighter than Shawn Porter, or then a better accomplished fighter than Mikey Garcia? Absolutely not. So the three guys Errol Spence just fought are all Hall of Famers. So with that said, the guys that Terence Crawford has faced are not Hall of Famers. Jeff Horn is not a Hall of Famer. Okay, Jose Benavidez is retired. He's not a Hall of Famer. Igor Kavalauskas is not a Hall of Famer. Now, maybe Amir Khan and Kell Brook. Amir Khan definitely could be a Hall of Famer. Kell Brook, he's teetering on that. But you got to keep in mind, if Kell Brook is a Hall of Famer, Errol Spence beat Kell Brook 3.5 years ago when he was a champion, and he did so by going to the UK and beating Kell Brook in his backyard. So that's another Hall of Famer you got to add to the resume of Errol Spence if you're going to add him to the resume of Terence Crawford. So with that said, Bob Arum is saying that this is a 50-50 fight based off the talent in the ring. I agree. Based off the talent in the ring, it's a 50-50 fight. But based off the business outside of the ring, and the numbers don't lie. You look at the pay-per-views, 2 pay-per-views Terence Crawford did. One with Amir Khan did 150,000 pay-per-view buys. The other with Victor Postol did 60,000 pay-per-view buys. So you put those numbers together, that's 210 pay-per-view buys total in his 2 pay-per-views. And this confirmed by Bob Arum. But you put Errol Spence's 2 pay-per-views together, 3 pay-per-views now, but the 2 ones we know of, the numbers for sure, 350,000 for Mikey Garcia, 325,000 for Showtime Shawn Porter. Now he just did his 3rd pay-per-view with Danny Garcia. Let's say it only did, 50,000 pay-per-views. That would still put him well over 700,000 pay-per-views to Terence Crawford's 200. So the business part outside of the ring is not close. The numbers don't lie. Errol Spence is the clear A side. Bob Arum is saying that there is no A side. He says if you look at Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, there's no A side. Well, there's a huge difference there. The difference is the level of opponents that Tyson Fury has faced and the level of opponents that Anthony Joshua faced compared to the level of opponents that Terence Crawford has faced. That's why that's a 50-50 fight. In the ring, talent-wise, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, 50-50. Outside, business-wise, it's not 50-50. Bob Arum doesn't want to lose out on such a big fight. This is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. He does not want to play second fiddle to Al Haymon and the PBC. Thus, the reason why he don't want to relinquish the reins to them and give them the clear A-side advantage, thus making them and having to relinquish his power to Al Haymon and the PBC. So he's saying that he'll instead freeze out Errol Spence. Now, for everybody saying that Errol Spence needs to go ahead and make the fight, Bob Arum is saying if they don't make it a 50-50 fight, he'll freeze them out. Errol Spence said it's 60-40 in his favor, and he'll make the fight. That's only 10% off from what they're looking for. If Errol Spence has done all the heavy lifting, and the proof is in the pudding as far as the pay-per-views, he's the clear biggest star. And Bob Arum said he absolutely looked great against Danny Garcia. He says that, so you know he's the biggest star because the proof is in the pudding. The numbers don't lie. And so with that said, you don't believe that Errol Spence is worth 10% more because he's doing all the heavy lifting? With that said, he also stated that he has no interest in making the Shawn Porter fight if he has to pay Shawn Porter big money. He says, what's it going to cost me to pay Shawn Porter? He says he's only willing to pay Shawn Porter $1 million. $1 million for Shawn Porter? Shawn Porter has made more than $1 million when he just fought for Miller. He's going to fight a high-profile fight, a championship fight with Terence Crawford and only garner $1 million. They paid Kell Brook more than $1 million. He hadn't made 147 in 3.5 years since being stopped by Errol Spence in 2017, and he was also stopped and had his orbital bone broken in 2016 by Gennady Golovkin, and hadn't had a meaningful fight since 2017. And he moved up in weight. He was worth $2 million. But Shawn Porter, who had a tooth and nail fight with Errol Spence, had a tooth and nail fight with Keith Thurman, beat Danny Garcia, is a 2-time welterweight world champion. Kell Brook is only a 1-time world champion. Yes, now he did defeat Shawn Porter. That was back in 2014. Shawn Porter is a significantly better fighter than he was in 2014 that he is today. Not even the same fighter. Okay? He's a more well-rounded fighter than he was then. Now, his style is still very similar, but if you look at his approach in the Yordenis Ugas fight and his approach in the Danny Garcia fight, he's much more gifted now and much more well-rounded than he was in 2014 when he lost to Kell Brook. So he's a completely different fighter from 2014. And if we're going to go off the past, then you got to go off the fact that Kell Brook was stopped twice in his career, once by that man named Errol Spence Jr. So you're saying that you would freeze him out, the Errol Spence fight, if they don't succumb to 50-50. And then on the flip side, you say you would make the Shawn Porter fight in a heartbeat if Shawn Porter is willing to accept $1 million. He says then the option is on the table for Terence Crawford is to wait, hold off for another big fight against the winner of Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez Jr. welterweight undisputed match that's set to take place in the spring. I believe it's sometimes in February. This fight is going to take place, and he'll face the winner. The winner will move up to welterweight. He says they have a huge fan base, making it a huge fight for Terence Crawford. Now, I agree. Terence Crawford versus winning this fight is a huge fight, but it's not a bigger fight than Terence Crawford versus Shawn Porter. He says that Keith Thurman priced himself out, asking for the $10 million, and they walked away from him. He said he made an offer to Keith Thurman. Once Keith Thurman informed him he wanted $10 million, they didn't even negotiate to try to bring Keith Thurman down to a reasonable number for them. Why? Because Bob Arum doesn't want to pay any opponents for Terence Crawford. This is abundantly clear. He already stated that he don't believe that Terence Crawford is a huge draw, right? In the statements that he made when he stated that Terence Crawford, in his last 3 fights prior to the Kell Brook fight, lost more money, so much so that he could build a mansion in Beverly Hills on Terence Crawford. So he made it abundantly clear that he don't believe Terence Crawford is a huge draw. And then he don't want to pay Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford is not a huge draw. He's not willing to pay Terence Crawford's opponents big money. Now, Jose Ramirez, he has vested interest because he's under top rank. Josh Taylor, on the other hand, is with, I believe, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. So with that said, he's looking to make an in-house fight. He, in hopes of Jose Ramirez winning the fight against Josh Taylor, the last 2 undisputed junior welterweight world champions go at it. He's going to build it as such. That's going to be the storyline between Jose Ramirez and Terence Crawford. It's an in-house fight. Thus, he don't have to break bank. He don't have to break his pockets to make this fight. It's a huge fight. Mexican fan base for Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez, is a big, strong, strapping guy. Jose Ramirez is 5'10". He's very big for the junior welterweight division. So the hope is that Jose Ramirez, he truly hopes that Jose Ramirez wins the fight, because he has to, if Josh Taylor wins the fight, then he has to split a share of the pie evenly, 50-50, as he wants Errol Spence to do with Eddie Hearn. Okay? So that's what he does not want to do. So if he has to keep it, if he's able to, if Josh Taylor wins, then he has to split the pie with Eddie Hearn. He doesn't want to do that. He's in hopes of Jose Ramirez winning. Jose Ramirez 26-0, 17 by way of knockout. He's 5'10" with a 72-inch arm reach. So he's a very, very big guy for junior welterweight. And he made it clear that he struggles to make junior 140-pound division, right? So he just recently beat Victor Postol. I wasn't overly impressed in that fight with Victor Postol. I thought Victor Postol had a opportunity to win that fight, but Victor Postol He's just not the same guy he once was. That when Terence Crawford fought Victor Postol, he's not that guy. Josh Taylor, on the other hand, is 17-0, 13 by way of knockout. He's 29 years of age. He's 5'10" with a 69.5-inch arm reach. He's out of the UK, and he's signed to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. So, obviously, Bob Arum hopes that Josh Taylor wins this fight. Jose Ramirez wins the fight. Then he could keep everything in-house with Terence Crawford and Jose Ramirez. He also, interestingly enough, touched on Teofimo Lopez as Bill Haney, father, trainer, and manager of Devin Haney, undefeated lightweight WBC superstar boxer. He addressed Bob Arum about the Teofimo Lopez fight. Teofimo Lopez, undefeated, unified WBA, WBO, IBF, Ring Magazine world champion, superstar boxer, who was signed to Matchroom. They discussed that fight. Now, remember, keep in mind, why does this matter? Because Teofimo Lopez has been campaigning saying he wants to fight the winner of Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez. And I told you guys the winner of that fight is going to go up to the welterweight and face off against Terence Crawford. They have no interest in fighting Teofimo Lopez. So wouldn't it only make sense? Now, Bob Arum also stated that Teofimo Lopez will be sticking around 135 for a little bit longer. So if that's the case, wouldn't it make sense for him to have an undisputed match with Devin Haney? But Bob Arum says that if they can't land a Gervonta Tank Davis fight, he wants to negotiate with Floyd Mayweather, Gervonta Tank Davis, undefeated two-division world champion who simultaneously holds the WBA at 130, 135. Gervonta Tank Davis is waiting on the same guy that Bob Arum is saying that they're waiting on, and that's the winner of Luke Campbell, British lightweight superstar contender. He's going to be fighting Ryan Garcia, undefeated, rising Mexican superstar lightweight contender. They're fighting January 2nd. So Bob Arum is saying that they're waiting for the winner of that fight to either face Ryan Garcia, who doesn't have a belt, and this is his first step up bout, right? But he's saying that Devin Haney doesn't deserve the opportunity because he's yet to prove himself. What did Ryan Garcia prove himself against? Okay? He's fighting the same level of opponents or less than Devin Haney, and he's not a world champion. And then he said he wants Gervonta Tank Davis either. But the funny part about this is that Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia are scheduled to fight each other after Ryan Garcia defeats Luke Campbell. So they'll be occupied with each other. Where does that leave Teofimo Lopez, right? Should go in the direction of Devin Haney. But instead, he states that no, Devin Haney, then Teofimo Lopez will then go in the direction of his mandatory challenger. So Teofimo Lopez has been telling anybody who listened he's going to 140 to challenge Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor winning. And I told you guys that was not going to be the case because the winner of that fight was going to go up and face Terence Crawford. And that's exactly what Bob Arum stated, that Terence Crawford will just wait for the winner of that fight and face off against them. And then he says, unless he wants to force Al Haymon to pay for Shawn Porter fight with Terence Crawford. He says that if Al Haymon wants to take it to a purse bid, seeing as though Shawn Porter's the mandatory, then he'll let Al Haymon take it to a purse bid. He'll let Al Haymon win the purse bid, rendering Al Haymon responsible for the purses for Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, and he could step back and not have to come out of his pockets. So when I told you guys that there was no deal in place for Manny Pacquiao because Bob Arum does not want to pay Manny Pacquiao $20+ million to face Terence Crawford. He does not want to pay for Terence Crawford to fight high-level quality opponents. So what he does is he downplays the opponents. He downplays Shawn Porter, he downplays Keith Thurman, and he downplays Danny Garcia. So that way he can say, well, they're not worth big money. $1 million for Shawn Porter. So you see, this is why the boxing world, the boxing fans were baffled when Terence Crawford re-signed with Bob Arum, because you see, Bob Arum admitted that Manny Pacquiao left and he got paid the $20 to $25 million when he fought Adrian Broner, 4-division world champion superstar boxer. And then Manny Pacquiao got $20 to $25 million for the Keith Thurman fight. So if you're not with Top Rank, you get the money that you're looking for. That Bob Arum is just not willing to break bank from his pockets. So in order for him to defend his stance with his fighters, he has to downplay the other stable of fighters across with other promotional companies. So expect to see Terence Crawford on the shelf until Josh Taylor Jose Ramirez winner comes to fruition. Because don't expect Errol Spence to budge off a 60-40 split, as he's doing all the heavy lifting and fighting a high quality level opposition, and he's doing the bigger pay-per-view numbers. The proof is in the pudding. So Terence Crawford essentially will be sitting on the shelf until he faces the winner of Josh Taylor Jose Ramirez coming up from junior welterweight in a big fight, as Bob Arum stated. So that's all I got for y'all. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.